Hope, something that might be very simple to many of us, to you, me, and a lot of us living in the world today. But for hundreds of thousands of people, it's a lot more elusive. It is in search of hope that hundreds of thousands of people migrate from countries like the Philippines to countries like Hong Kong, with dreams, with hopes, with aspirations. But they're not always met with the most warmest of welcomes. They're often exploited, they're treated unfairly, and a host of factors cause them to live miserable lives in the countries they hoped to call home. Ladies and gentlemen, we're Team Bangladesh University of Professionals, and with FAIR FEF today, with Fair Employment Federation, we will be looking to give people the hope that they want.
Where are we now? We are an expanding social venture aimed to resolve workers' exploitation, owning a small market share and providing math skill gap training. And we want to have an ethical business model adopted by other agencies, securing mature position in Hong Kong market while expanding in Philippines to get more workers, make a strong image in both local and international market. If we analyze the current situation, the unethical agencies and fair employment agency, both of them are catering to existing 400,000 foreign domestic market, where 55% are from Philippines and majority are women, and it is expected to increase 600,000 by 2047. They contribute around $12.6 billion to Hong Kong economy in a year, which is significant amount of their total GDP, around 3% of their GDP. Now, the social causes of the foreign domestic worker. Unethical agencies who provide foreign domestic workers, because of lack of regulation and lack of monitoring of these agencies, they charge high placement fees. And this placement fees is 25% higher than the legal fees that has been established by the government. Legal fees is usually 10% of their salary, but the unethical agencies are charging 25% more than this. For this, workers need to take loan from moneylenders, and moneylenders got the opportunity to exploit it. They charge interest ranging from 100 to 300%, whereas our legal limit is only 6% of the loan that borrowed by foreign domestic workers. Foreign domestic workers are unable to pay this high interest. Sometimes it takes very long time to repay. They get demotivated. Their living standards get down. Sometimes they are being abused sexually, verbally by the employer. Here we can see a day bondage has been created by these unethical agencies. The reason why this worker cannot go away because the moneylenders take their passport as collateral. They are not getting their passport back unless they repay the payment. There is already a partnership between moneylenders and unethical agencies. Also, unethical agencies follows the tactics to increase their revenue by giving deliberate mismatched unskilled worker to employers intentionally. Upon returning the worker, the unethical agencies get the chance of repetitive placement of workers and ensure the cash influx of their organization. The reason why they're catering unethical approaches is because of the lack of information, lack of availability of info among the Philippine workers who are not that much educated. All this process leads to the foreign development work are unhappy and their productivity is decreasing. With all of this, we have identified 4 key issues that are information asymmetry, because unethical agencies are getting a huge amount of money under wrong information. Employer work interest misalignment, because employers are not getting what they want from a worker. And monetary hurdles, because so many financial exploitation is happening because of moneylenders and unethical agencies. And employer power imbalance. Moving on.
Now, we've looked at the market, we've looked at the situation they have, and we've looked at what FAIR FEF wants to achieve. And we agree with FEF's identification of 3 viable alternatives. Firstly, to expand organically. This would allow for stable growth of the firm. This would allow for them to maintain the core beliefs of the core values of the company itself. And it would allow, in the long run, greater return. However, this does require more investment, and it would lead to slower growth for the firm because of the intense operations that they must carry out. Secondly, they can franchise. This would give them very fast growth and it would improve their profitability very fast because of franchising fees and other benefits to that. It would also have less operational fees, costs, and complexity, with greater coverage for the market that they're trying to serve. But this would also make them have less control over the overall process and perhaps less control over the maintenance of the core values of the firm itself. And in the long run, it will lead to less profits for the firm. And lastly, they want to expand training and scouting, specifically in the Philippines. This would allow them to have greater impact there. It would allow them to train those workforces better and better equip them to handle any form of exploitation that they might face. It would allow for faster sourcing to meet a market that is largely not catered to by FEF, and it would help them overall to have a better relationship with the Filipino communities that give where these workers come from. However, this, like the first option, has high investment, and it has greater this has greater operational complication, making it a lot more complicated to expand and operate in a foreign market. In terms of stakeholders, the company has two key stakeholders. Firstly, the workers who go to Hong Kong to work in different households, and the employers whose houses they end up working in. But there are also two sets of tertiary stakeholders. The government, who in this industry is incredibly involved and have vested interests within the market. And lastly, other places such as labor unions, insurance companies, banks, who also we could potentially collaborate with and who also have interest within the market and the overall performance thereof. All things considered, we wanted to solve this problem and we came up with our big idea: using technology to build inclusive communities of migrant workers that cater to all stakeholders. We do this in three phases. Firstly, innovate, where we create new platforms and systems that remedy the misalignment of the various incentives of the stakeholders. Secondly, we implement, where we go on the ground and put all these innovations and new practices we want the market to adopt into practice and in the hands of the workers and the employers. And lastly, impact, where we build communities to have holistic impact on all the stakeholders, specifically the workers, and to round the entire thing off sustainably. The main aspect of our innovate phase is the FAIR app. This is a very simple app where various workers will be categorized and tiered. Each worker will have their portfolios attached and will have individual skills marked. For example, they might have a 70% in cooking and 80% in cleaning, a 90% in child rearing, or so on. Prospective employers can go into the app and look through the various workers and what they offer, how good they are, what they are skilled at, what they're better at. We'll be giving an overall ranking of stars between 1 to 5 to make it simpler for the employer to do the initial screening. These workers, depending on their skill level, will also have tiered fees. So the more skilled workers will be more expensive for the employers to employ, and the lower skilled workers will be less expensive for the employers to employ. This allows us not only to take advantage of the premium that the case says the employers are willing to pay, but it also allows us to do it in a way that doesn't increase the threshold or the base in terms of fees for the market, making it replicable in every other firm, which the company also wishes for it to have. And most importantly, it allows us to fix the alignment of the workers' capabilities and the employer's needs without needing us to directly intervene, solving one of our key problems.
And now let's move on to the next phase, implement. The workers under FEA will be given a fair smart card. Now, the smart card will have a QR code, and upon scanning the QR code, the worker will be taken to his account in the worker end of the FAIR app, which my teammate has previously talked about. Now, basically, the app will have two sides, one for the employer's end and one for the worker's end. The smart card will be for the workers, and the QR code scanning will lead them to the worker end of the app. And over there will be scanned copies of all the legal documents stored that will be readily available for all the formal procedures for the worker. That's easing things for him in a great way. Now, the workers can also see their progress and scores of the training upon scanning the QR code and being redirected to the app. This will help him realize what his key strengths are, what he specializes in, and the areas in which he can improve, thus making reducing the skill gap even greatly. Now, another unique feature is that the worker end of the app will be in 3 different languages: Cantonese, Filipino, and English. This will facilitate things for the domestic workers even more, because most of them are migrant workers, so they will be able to understand things in the language that they are accustomed in, the language that they are more comfortable in. And whenever the QR code is scanned, the language of the app will automatically switch to the nationality of the QR card holder, making it easier for him to understand his progress scores in their native language. The app will also have a 24/7 interactive chatbot in that specific language, which will help the worker to communicate any query they have, thus reducing the information asymmetry greatly. Now, we will also be collaborating with Pleo to record the payment of the workers and reduce chances of exploitation even more, because then all the transactions with the employer will be stored in the app. So the worker will be able to see all his transactions and know more about it. Next slide, please. Now, FAE already provides trainings to the workers, but now, along with training for the demanded skills and technical skills, they will also be given training on basic financial management. Now, this will help the workers to not only be aware of their rights, but also let them know about how to do financial planning, how to improve their financial stability, and also how to manage all their money, their assets, and basically have a better life in general. Now, this will prevent them to be exploited through knowledge and awareness. Now, another problem that we saw in the case was that the workers often face psychological trauma. Now, psychological counseling will also be provided for the workers to help them overcome their trauma and better cope with the existing environment and the work conditions and the culture as well. Now, FAE will also provide lifestyle assistance to the workers, where we will open bank accounts for them to have proper records of their transactions, where they can channel their monetary funds to their families living abroad as well. We'll also connect them with labor unions, anti-slavery unions, so that they're part of a larger community. They can speak for their rights in a better way. And we'll also provide medical insurance for them, thus facilitating in making life a little more easier for them as well. Now, in the next phase, Impact, we will build community of workers in both Hong Kong and Philippines. Now, currently, workers have sessions or meetings with FAE staff every Sunday, but now we will have an open session for the workers, even the ones who are not under our agency. This will help them connect with each other, share each other's stories, their hurdles, and also share the stories about how they were or were not exploited and the ways that they can prevent it. Now, these sessions will be facilitated and monitored by FAE staff, who will be available to answer any query they have or help the workers in any way they can. Now, the community building in Philippines will also be done by leveraging the ownership of the training center to build communities in Philippines as well, so that the Filipino workers do not get affiliated with the unethical agencies to begin with, and increase awareness greatly. Now, the communities will help to spread the positive impact created by FAIR, and also spread the knowledge and awareness by the multiplier effect, where one worker talking to 2 or 3 more workers disperses awareness to them. And those workers again spreads the knowledge and awareness to 2, 3 more workers, thus creating a multiplier effect where a large number of workers will be aware of the exploitation, will be aware of what they can do to improve their process in an easier way. They can differentiate between unethical and ethical agencies in a much better way. Overall, this will increase the total dispersion of knowledge by a huge portion and improve the lives of the workers by a large percentage as well. Now, we will also be expanding to Philippines. Now, the expansion to Philippines will be done in 2 ways. One, through the community building that I've previously mentioned. And secondly, by the end of 4th year, we plan on having more training centers. Currently, FAIR has ownership of 30% of a training center in Philippines. But after 3 to 4 years, we plan on expanding to Philippines by having more training centers there as well, so that we can prevent the Filipino workers from getting exploited by unethical agencies over there more. We can make them aware about that more. And we can also divert more Filipino workers to Hong Kong as well. Now, once they enroll in the training center, either by knowing through the community or by knowing about more training centers, FEF will do the paperwork and all the legal procedures, and then the workers will come to Hong Kong and get their own jobs here to the recruiters in Hong Kong. Now, FEF will also manage the employer-worker relationship, thus decreasing the misalignment of interests greatly, and also through the community building in Hong Kong, this will also facilitate more workers in Hong Kong as well.
Now, for our cost analysis or quantitative analysis of implementing our strategies, we have initially identified our key cost centers, which can be categorized in four centers. Initially, a substantial cost will be incurred in developing our fare application, which will cost around 500,000 to 700,000 Hong Kong dollar. The app will allow employers to choose workers based on competencies of the foreign domestic workers, which allows us to charge different prices based on the incremental pricing strategy for each slab of skills. Thus, instead of going for a premium pricing, we opt for satisfying our clients based on paying more for their preferences. This cost will be followed by the production of QR code card, and that will mitigate information asymmetry and thus promoting more transparency. Similarly, our next cost will be HR cost in opening a bank account along with affiliation in different medical insurance companies. This will ensure mental health support for the foreign domestic workers. Along with that, they would have more control over their financial position through having their own bank accounts. This will motivate the workers, increasing their productivity and productivity. Another substantial factor is to reach foreign domestic workers through expansion while building a community, which is one of the vital cost part of our cost structure. That includes opening more branches in Hong Kong and expanding training centers in Philippines, while taking different community building initiatives over the years. Overall, we want to penetrate the market of gaining 50% of the existing workers more in a year. We will perceive that based on the current pricing strategy for a fair employment agency, we will be able to generate more returns on different levels of demand. Now, moving forward, to ensure smooth implementation of our strategy, we have divided our timeline into 4 years of projection. Initially, our app will be developed within the 6 months of the first year and in the innovative phase, and the app will be distributed to more than 1,000 prospective workers in a year and to cover all 5,000 existing workers of foreign employment agency. This should be followed in our implementation phase, where we will be initially for 2.5 years to ensure the distribution of QR code card and mitigate the current skill gap of the market. The QR code card and the bank accounts will be open for all our existing workers and to reach more than 1,500 prospective workers within 1.5 years. And our aim is to build a community that will be an ongoing process over the years and will escalate our multiplier effects, where substantial benefits will be realized at the 4th year. Furthermore, we will have ongoing training of more workers and opening new branches that will instill our values of ethical practices and ensuring profitability in the industry. But the next step is, now there have been various risks that we need to consider while taking our decision, which can be identified as what if there is a backlash from competitors that perpetrates of unfair practices. There are high chances of this to occur as they will be facing strong competition if fair employment agency expense. Hence, we will be collaborating with government, unions, and human rights organizations to ensure that the backlash that we'll be facing will be addressed. Similarly, if there are cost overruns due to expansion in the foreign market, which can be diminished by assigning a director of training and recruitment in the Philippines with KPI benchmarking to ensure controlling our cost on a continuous basis. Lastly, if there is a lack of traction of community components, we will build social and cultural programs catering to specific migrant communities. Even we have done a sensitivity analysis that will be addressing any systematic risks of variation in macroeconomic condition as one of the macroeconomic condition could be the pandemic. Now, moving forward to our overall, all our strategies are also aligned with the sustainable development goals of achieving the SDG 8 that will promote decent work and economic growth to ensuring better employment of foreign domestic work. Secondly, we will also be addressing SDG 10 by reducing
Thank you.
inequality and by ensuring better payment and
Thank you.
relieving
It's time
foreign domestic
up.
work from debt bondage that will improve their living standards.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. It's now time for the Q&A session. The 15 minutes countdown starts now. Let's hear the first question.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the presentation. Very much appreciated. And sorry that we had to cut you short there. We just want to ensure that all the teams have the same amount of time for presenting. A couple of questions from me. How is the actual payment working through the QR code? I wasn't very clear on how are you proposing the employer to pay through that app? I wasn't very clear on that, if you can explain. The second question will be on how the lifestyle assistance will actually generate money. And the third question is, I wasn't also very sure on how the community aspect works. So I understand the community, but I wasn't very clear on the benefit and the revenue potential of that community aspect that you presented.
Ma'am, if I may answer your first question. In terms of how payments will be made to the QR code and the card itself. So there's a company called Playo, which operates on a B2B market scale. So what they basically do is they give employee identification cards that also act as credit cards. So companies can make their payments directly to the employee identification cards. As we said in the slide, we will be collaborating with these people who've already developed this technology to incorporate that into the identification cards of the workers. This gives two key benefits. Firstly, the employers, because of the nature of the card, if they make the payment directly through the app to us, it can automatically be sent to the card. So it becomes a lot more convenient and transparent for the workers. Secondly, the workers who may not have a lot of experience in terms of banking does not have to carry extra credit cards or extra debit cards or have to manage a lot of cards or even carry their documents or anything. So this one card would have everything they need to live a life in Hong Kong. So that was our goal. As far as the community, if Fabliha could answer.
Ma'am, as for the community will basically help to improve more numbers of workers. And one of the key problems that we saw in the case was that the workers are not aware about their rights and there's an information asymmetry. So the community will help to greatly reduce that and will help to enroll more workers into our system, into our agencies. So thus increasing the number of potential workers we can turn into skilled workers. And when we can give more skilled workers through training to the employers, then we can generate more revenue from that as well. Because we have already mentioned that if employers want to have more skilled workers, then we have to pay a little more, because the more skilled workers we will charge more for providing them more skilled workers. So if we have more skilled workers in our agencies, then we will be able to provide more and we will be able to generate more revenue as well.
Yes, ma'am, if I could further clarify, to address how we want the community to work in the first place, basically what community aspects FEA already has, how it currently works is it's a more closed system. So the people that they send to Hong Kong, they gather them together and they talk and they address their issues. What we wanted to do was to have a broader appeal to this. So a lot of the workers who are being exploited, the vast majority of workers who are being exploited aren't really part of our agency. They've already been exploited. They go to work, there's a mismanagement. So they go back to the agency that exploited them in the first place and the cycle continues for them. So by making the community, we wanted to make it a lot more open-ended so that these workers in their day-to-day time can come and join us and talk to us and understand how they're actually being exploited. Because what we've seen is that a lot of these workers being exploited don't realize that they're being exploited in the first place. So that's how we want the community to work. It's just a more open-ended version of what we're already doing. In terms of your second question, which is how we're making money from the lifestyle improvements that we want to make with these people, the fact of the matter is, in terms of training, these people do pay a certain fee for it, right? So all those generations and all these things that we give them are included in that fee. What we say—
Sorry, is it who is paying for the fee, the employer or the employee?
The employee. When they go to the training, in terms of our processing, the training, all of this is included in one fee. So this fee covers all of this. And basically what our promise is for the fee is that we'll make you ready and connect you to workers in Hong Kong. But in most cases, we're not doing that. So we believe that this is just a logical progression of the promise we've already made and the fees we've already taken. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. My question is, regarding, because I can clearly see that you have a solution to solve the social problems about unethical situations that is some of the domestic helpers is facing in Hong Kong. Have you done any quantitative estimations about what the strategy may bring to the company, and any considerations in terms of investment and then return from that perspective? If you can articulate a bit, that'd be great.
Yes, sir. Sir, if I may answer. The first of all, sir, as we have seen that over the 4 years, there are number of workers is around 5,000 workers. So we could say that per year they have acquired around 1,250 workers. So if we say that as with our implementation with different strategies, we believe that we will be at a minimum level, we will be able to acquire around 1,500 workers for the first years, and on the maximum level, on an optimistic level, we will be able to acquire around 2,500 new workers, which is the 50% of the existing workers. So this have helped us to generate our revenues that will be earned by the company. And also we have also done different cost analysis, where from there we have seen that even at the minimum level, our returns would be around 27%, whereas in the maximum level of 2,500, our return would be around 56%. So am I audible?
Sir, if I could
add, and also the cost that we have calculated is basically done on application level.
Yeah. Sir, if I could add to that, basically how we're improving the profitability and the overall financials of the firm is mainly because of our tiered system. So we saw that surveys show that people are willing to pay a 70% premium, up to a 70% premium for the workers, but we haven't been able to justify it or make it. The company doesn't want to do it in a way that sets a market expectation that cannot be replicated. So by creating the tiered system, at the highest end, we will be making 60% more per worker than we'd normally be doing. And at the lowest end, we'll be making about 25% more per worker than we'd normally be doing. So overall, considering all our investments, our benchmark is we expect a 30% increase in net profits at the end of the program.
Hello. So thank you for the presentation, and congratulations to the team. You have made it. So I actually got two questions. One is about the app as well. So I just want to understand a bit more about the app. So the major consideration or the major aim for the app, from what I get, is it for better matching? If that's the case, because if it's for better matching, then I guess right on Kinu's question, what are the costs? What are the exact costs? Because it looks like that a lot of upgrades would need to be done on the current app. That's my first question. The second question is that I read from your previous slides that one of the future aim for FEA that your team is targeting for is for it to be sustainable and also to promote the fair employment situation in Hong Kong. So I saw a lot of solutions that you presented, but it looks like that it's mainly to just expand the base of the workers going through the agency. So, but in terms of how to promote this culture, have the team have given any further thoughts on that? And I would love to hear the thoughts on that.
Ryan, if you could answer the first.
For the first question, as we have different features in our app, we have determined that the minimum amount of level that will be spent investing on app is around 700,000 Hong Kong dollar, which can be high as 100,000 Hong Kong dollar. That's the budget that we have allocated for the application that we're inclined to develop.
And in terms of your second question, ma'am, yes, we have thought about the cultural shifts that would need to be done to better this situation. But ma'am, what we understood after a lot of discussion is that for a lot of workers, the current situation is honestly abysmal. And the main reasons for this are A, because they have no influence or leverage in terms of the discussions that they already make, and B, they have no knowledge or knowledge awareness or actually know about how they're being exploited. So we solve both of these problems in our impact phase, which basically directly adds to our sustainability goals and what we want to achieve. So by building this community where workers not only, even if it's us, even if it's replicated or a franchise or our organic branch, they don't have to depend for information directly with us. By creating a community with other workers from other fields or other agencies, we allow them to transact information with people who are much more likely to relate to their situation and will be able to give them information. And we believe that at the end of the day, what empowers people is knowing about what they need to do to be empowered. And we believe that people have it in them to empower themselves through their own activities and their own what they do. However, we've also taken some systematic steps to better this as well. Because as we've shown throughout our entire training process, we're not focusing on just making them more profitable. We're focusing on making them more able to empower themselves with our lifestyle coaching and all these other things. We're giving them a financial base where they have their own bank account and their own card. We are giving them documents on their cards, which is a huge problem, because if one of these agencies take collateral in the terms of their documents, they're basically stuck there with no way to get out. So we systematically solve all these problems, and we believe that helps us reach our sustainability goals. But our main focus is on empowering the workers themselves to reach it, and us just being the medium for that empowerment. We hope that it answers the question.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now we still have time for one or two good questions. Judges, do you have any further questions?
Ask, what's the strategic vision you have in mind of FEA as an organization after implementing the strategy you proposed?
Fabio, would you like to answer?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Sir, in terms of strategic vision, what we basically identified is on two levels. Firstly, on a social level and on a business level, there is an opportunity here. There is a huge mismatch between what people deserve and what people would prefer and what they want and what the market is giving them. Our strategic vision is basically to be able to strongly, with strong foundations, solve these problems, make it undoubtedly the more appealing alternative for the Filipino workers to get trained in and to go to Hong Kong, and for the Hong Kong employers to give us, to make this entire model in absolutely capitalistic terms more favorable or more preferable to both parties involved. And we want to do this within the 4-year time frame that we've set. However, long term, we also have another goal that we've set, which is to prove this model in such a way that it can be replicable by firms operating in the space as well. So, maybe firms in Europe, maybe firms in Asia, maybe firms elsewhere. So what we wanted, our entire strategic vision is to sustainably build to a point where it proves that humanity and business doesn't have to be different. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, did I understand correctly that you are charging different prices based on the employee score?
Yes.
So basically, if I'm a bad employer, I will be charged more than if I'm a good employer, correct?
No, ma'am. The scoring does not apply to the employer, but the employee.
Okay.
So the higher skilled employee gets scored more.
Basically, ma'am, if I may add to that a little, We are providing training for all the workers. So all the workers will be skilled up to a threshold level. But if they gain more specialized skills, then they will get, we will charge more fees for training them in a more, for providing more specialized work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
No more questions from me.
Okay. Okay, thank you all. Now the judges will stay in the room to deliberate